maisha yako. Pengine kuna upingamizi fulani. Pengine kuna magonjwa. Pengine kuna mambo ambayo inakera.
That was another kind of discouragement. So we need to stand in our faith. Amen. So you see, this gentleman was discouraged. So sometimes when we are pursuing God's calling, it involves standing firm against discouragement. David faced criticism from people and even his brother himself. Lesson number 5. The battle belongs to God. The battle belongs to God. Amen. We must know that. So even when we are in a challenge, let us know that the battle belongs to God. We did it for God. David knew the victory comes from God. And not from the human weapons. Lesson number 6. David did not just profess his faith. He went to the battlefield with confidence. We see that in verse 48. Faith is demonstrated through courageous action, not just words. Amen. So we need to courageously face a challenge. And we take a step. Amen. Lesson number 7. God's perspective differs from human perspective. Let us view our challenge with God's perspective. We see that in verse 26. Amen. David saw this challenge with the God's perspective. That was the difference between him and other people who were with him. When people were looking at him, they could not imagine. They could not imagine he was going to conquer this gentleman. Lesson number 8. God empowers us with what we have. Amen. David used his sling and stone and he was and the stone that he was familiar with. Amen. And he went against the wishes of Saul. You know, the wishes of Saul was to clothe him with the clothes of the army. But you see, David was not familiar. He told him that I am not used to this. He took his weapon, the sling and the stone, and he went to the battle. And he was victorious. Amen. We look at that in verse 26. Not 26, no, verse 38 to 40. Lesson number 9. Boldness in faith glorifies God. You see, this man was bold enough. Amen. And that alone glorifies God. So we need to be bold in whatever we face. And we face the challenges with the perspective of God. And the last one, giant can be defeated. Amen. No problem is too big for God to handle. With God on our side, even the greatest obstacle can also be overcome. Amen. So it is my encouragement this morning that we continue to face challenges, but we stand. When a challenge comes, let us not run away. Let us look at it in God's perspective. And we face all those challenges. As I come to the end of this message, I want you to look at Korir in your life as Satan. And you look at yourself as David. Amen. And when you face such a challenge, pick this word David was speaking. You send a testimony that you have. Which God may have helped you to overcome. And you will be victorious. So I'm not going to continue. I want to welcome you to stand as we sing a song in the hymn. Yes, I welcome our bishop to come and finish the last part. Somebody to help us in that song. But David could help God with an involved, which enabled him to face the giant. Lesson number 2 is that God uses ordinary people for particular tasks. I know without us, when it comes to maybe when we are in an interview, people look at the way we dress, the way we have eaten, and maybe we have grown, the strength that we have. But in the eyes of God, He can use a tiny person, the one who is not expected. I remember when he was being ordained or anointed. You remember the story of anointing of David? The panel of examiners came forth. Whoever was interviewing him, I think it was SAMWEL. He was sent to go and anoint David. When he went to the family of David, we are told the house of Jesse. There were brothers of David. And when they came, the first one came. I thought the interview started in this world. I thought the interview started here. Listen. But there were interviews during those days. You see, David was interviewed. But before that, there were so many brothers of David. You know, he had 7 brothers. And he was the 8th one. When the first brother came during that time of interview, I believe he was Eliab. Samuel saw him. And he saw how he was taught. And maybe he thought he was going to be chosen to be the king. But God spoke to him and told him that was not the one. The second one came. He was also clothed. I don't know whether he was in a suit. But he came and appeared to be a good one. In our eyes of this, sometimes we may see and believe that maybe this is the right thing. But it may not be the eyes of God. Now, we are told they all came up to the seventh one. But the panel of examiners saw that there was nobody to be anointed. And therefore he asked Jesus, are these all your sons? But Jesus said there is one who is in the wilderness looking after the sheep. Even Jesus himself did not imagine David to be anointed as a king. What I'm saying is, the lesson number 2, I say God uses ordinary people for a particular task. So you see, David was an ordinary man and he was a young man. He was not expected to go to an army and lead the army of the Lord. Of course, there were so many other people who looked up, who appeared to be good people who can lead the army of the Lord. But God had seen them. Now, in lesson number 3, we see God prepares us for a greater challenge. I'm saying this because David was also prepared when he was in the wilderness. So God prepares us. When we meet with a challenge, remember there is a bigger challenge ahead of you. So you see when this gentleman had the lion, and they managed to kill him. It's like he was prepared for this task. So God prepares us for a greater task. Lesson number 4, we need to stand firm in faith. Despite the opposition that we may be facing. So you see, David was also discouraged. So many people discourage him. As they will sometimes discourage us. I remember when I was about to work, I was also discouraged. I didn't have anything at home. And the dowry was a problem to me. When I told my parents about it, it was a serious challenge. Bishop had to intervene. He's the one who took me to my in-laws and negotiated for the dowry. Actually, I didn't have anything. Besides the dowry, I didn't have even the money to feed the visitors. You know, during our weddings, there is need for a lot of money to be used. During that time, I didn't have money. Well, but I waited. Right now, I have my wife. I have children. But remember, I was discouraged. When I told my friend that I'm going to wait, they looked at me and they knew I didn't have anything. But I did the wedding. I had a whole wedding. I did not elope. Remember, someone was telling me,
ne kitinye noton ko kisuberenyin ak kimiten eunyin boroet nekiwirtoe koita ak kirikyi Filistindet.
Yes. And the Philistine came and came on and drew near to David with his shield paired in front of him. And when the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, ruddy and comely in appearance. Verse 43 says, and the Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cast David by his cords.
Agi Philistine at Korir Daudi, Agi Doyle that she turned Egyptian long air. Agi Korir, Philistine Norton of Lam Tule, Korir Daudi, Abasamu, Kitago, coming Agi believe. I would tinny, Toget, Negaran, Killing Philistine Daudi toes, as he said, continue job, and dropping. Agi Chuk, Philistine Norton Daudi, aim Karamunchi.
In verse 44, the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give you a flesh to the birds of the air and to the beasts of the field.
Agi legit Philistine Daudi Nyom, or Yami Tassi, our chip or Tang Taritik Jova, act your to me.
Now, in verse 45, these are the words that were spoken by David.
And after Mamutu, letting on Daudi.
And these are the powerful words I would like us to have.
Now let's what you take your chicken too.
Well, as a field. In verse 45, it says, and David said to the Philistine, you come to me with sword and with spear and with javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of the host, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have denied. This day the Lord will deliver you into the hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head, and I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day, the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is God in Israel.
Each of the Philistine on the million John, I wrote it up show, I'm not sit and lead it, I want chin and guide it up, you want not on the ocean. Come to in the table, Lugosia Israel, never in Indeed, Ran Jehovah, a union, I read, I met watch around Musuga, look at the Philistine, that he took Chavara, Doctor up to me, Chavamo is going to be 9-1, 2 will be me on toilet of Israel.
Now David was now declaring the weapon that he's going to use. And it's like nobody was seeing these weapons. But because he had faith in God, he knew he's going to use the weapon from God. In verse 7, it says, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord, and He will give you into our hand. Amen. And when the Philistine arose, verse 48, and came and drew near to meet David, David then quickly towards the battle, like to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his pack and took out a sword and slang it, and struck the Philistine on his forehead. And the sword sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground.
I don't know Philistine that when you go to the Daudi, which after Daudi or Lavat to check out the middle way, or to Philistine and autumn. I hero Daudi, a woodlord in our name, Waita, I won't Proveta we Philistine that go queer to get our toge, I should quite a toge to eat a heap, condiment. How the Philistine is king. In Levy part of Philistine that Amen.
So you see how David used the power from God. And he spoke very powerfully that he was coming in the name of the Lord. Bwana asifiwe.
Ona tisa.
That is the weapons I would like us to have when we face challenges.
Chongwari chochi ke baisi nyonga ke nyoru uindo.
Some challenges are beyond our able.
Uinwe kana ko magi muchi ga ko eche.
But because we have the weapons from God,
Amu biti je kari che ba Jehovah.
we need to declare that God is with us.
Ko wache ke nga ile bite chobo.
And that we are going to use His name
Age baisi ga ile.
to overcome challenges.
Sko biti terte.
Bwana asifiwe.
Bwana sifiwe.
From this lesson,
In honetisione.
I have come to see about 10 lessons that we have learned out of the story of David and Goliath.
Ko ke honitu si kine taman cha ke nyoru e honetisione ba Daudi.
I want us very quickly to go through them
Amache ke bege chaktaen.
and see what we have learned from the story.
Age ge diga gi net ke e nyono to.
First, it is good to trust in God.
Ne ta ko mi mising yo ko gi mo mo e
Trust in God and overcome fear.
Agi terte ora go yishi.
Bwana asifiwe.
Amen.
Fear sometimes is another challenge of its own.
Ko yishi kara go en winda ga ne to no jige.
So it's good we trust in God
Ye yo ko tienge Jehovah.
and overcome fear.
Agi ge terte go yishi.
To see faith in God, strength, help, overcome our challenges.
Kare kare Jehovah ko torte so bi ta gi terte.
And so that in 1 Samuel 17 verse 37,
We are getting some in the Tata Manasa,
Israelites were overcome with fear when Goliath challenged them. In the book of in verse 34,
I'm going to say 34.
oh yes, 34. But David said to Saul, your servant, but David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear, and he took a lamb from flock, I went after him and smote him and delivered it out of the mouth. And when he rose against me, I got him by his beard and smote him and killed him. Your servant has killed both lion and bear, and these uncircumcised Philistines shall be like one of them.
Agi den chit daw de sol. Ki yogi go to inde nyung ge chire yogi go to inde nge chire ga kwa na yini. Agi go nyung tundo anantiondo ne gar ge yogi bi ago nam arwe da ke chire e na pede o su aga we aga bare. Ago so we utin. Agi go nget agi go nget ko ki go nget ko barane anam tamne ago ko aga bare. Ki bar go to inde ngung Tiong itu tak tu atau tuan ngetunda orang nonton negara itu Palestina ni nonton Palestina ni magi meratan agak ini cek kamu orang siapa kamu tu ini lesabe.
That is the power of a testimony.
No go kim nanti bapa nanti.
He was giving a testimony of what God had done before.
Kigon bapa nanti tamu gina dia coba bayar.
I want to encourage you.
Amace ajarin.
Should you be found with a challenge,
Yang manyorun ini tenuin dano.
encourage yourself with what had happened before.
Cerge engina kia besok.
How God might have helped you
Mara besok lagi tortin
to
coba.
overcome a challenge.
Si oi mujit.
So you see that he was giving a testimony.
Kigon daw di bar nanti.
It was after he had seen that people do not believe in him.
Kiyer gulle ba maya na michu.
So he had to give out the testimony.
Kiai go ba nanti.
And after giving this testimony,
Kingo ga go.
now these people allowed him to continue with his mission.
Kucham jibi chu da sta kasi na tini.
Let us see in the book of, in verse 37,
So some akte sabu.
and David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of the Philistine.
Kima daw di gulle Jehovah na tagi sarwo yoga no tundo ak yoga ti onyo tagi ku sarwo uta listing dani.
That is the word that should be spoken by every believer.
No ne acha mo le goya ni taga tu.
Remember what God might have done in your life before,
Ibat ki age ngena mara ke ucho ba besho.
and use it as a weapon
Aki baisi yang baik kari.
Bwana asifiwe.
Amen.
So David in his life
Daudi sabini
knew how God has helped him.
Kia mana boleh gitu orang tahu.
Remember, he was a shepherd, as I told you.
Was boleh gini ada kau ini mesto.
He went through various challenges while he was in the wilderness.
Ki pun uinwe cecanggi umi melewe.
You can imagine following the lion after having snatched the lamb.
What is you want me to know how we are going to get.
If I may ask, are you in a position to follow a lion?
Lagi tebe ni kira easy me to know.
Imagine he didn't have even yet no weapon.
And what will you do? Karena tak kacau.
You can see this story.
He
was using a stick to kill the lion.
What will you see in there? The kid to buy to know.
Can you imagine using a stick to kill a lion?
What you buy again to buy to know.
But let me tell you, the strength of this gentleman was not in the weapon that he had.
Him not in the much issue. He was karena
it was in the faith that he had in God. He was depending on God. So this is my encouragement this morning. That we depend on God in whatever comes on our ways. Be it sickness, or any challenge or any kind. We love to depend on God and not our strength. So in verse 38, when this gentleman had been allowed to continue with this mission, Saul decided to clothe him with the cloth of the Ham. Saul decided to clothe him with the cloth of the Ham. In verse 38, then Saul clothed David with his arm. He put a helmet of bronze on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. So you can see, Saul still see this man of God in a different perspective. So he was, in fact, because he was a young man, and he appeared unskillful in the way he is going to fight. He was young and very tiny, and had no weapon. So Saul decided to clothe him with the clothes of the Ham. But David did not see this weapon as power. You see, then David said to Saul, I cannot go with this, for I am not used to them. And David took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in his shepherd's bag or wallet. His sling was in his hand, and he drew near the Philistine. They are told there were 3 brothers. One of them, I think he was the eldest, was Eliab. We are told in verse 28, and now Eliab, his eldest brother, had when he spoke to men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your assumption and the evil of your heart, or you have come down to see the battle.
Agigas Eliab kita kamet no kumalol chin pichotan. Agi labia dereka abenya ako kadawdi. Agi le amune si choruge. Ake mo kimo ki chire chotan ngirim. E no ngate ong ke mina ting ong yo ite tamu le gang ngamu ki choruge nyo iger luge. Nguno tos mami kita bai ne ba ban
to the brother of David, David was seen as a young boy who was just coming to watch how the David was. As you know, when there's a battle song or maybe a fight between people, young boys normally like to come and watch how the people are fighting. I think this is how Eliab saw his brother David. But that was not the way. I mean, that was not the reason. The main reason is that he was hungered by the way Korir David, the army of the Lord. Now, verse 29 says, and David said, what have I done now? Was it not but a word? And he turned away from him towards another and spoke in the same way, and people answered again as before.
Agile Daudi courage name uno tos mami tegi ne wabani agi wala le to chige chi toge agomwa wat kai agi wal chibi ne da ko geni ko dai.
When the words they spoke were hard, they repeated them before Saul, and he said for him, and David said to Saul, let no man have faith because of him. Your servant, I will go and fight with the Philistine. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth.
Agi ngegas ngale chigi mwa Daudi keba gi mwa Saul agi okta chita ko urinende agi leji Daudi Saul amat kome chimu ule la bo inende neweni in awa inende we ndi otwa inde mu warege Philistine daletane agi leji Saul Daudi me muchi iwe obarage Philistine daletana mu tawi mingin agi inende ko chita bluge ko bo mingin ateni.
Like this man was alone, and nobody encouraged him. Almost everybody was discouraging him. And as I told you, we are not without the discouragers. In all our doings, people dare to discourage us. I remember I attended a church meeting in Nairobi. And the pastor was speaking that time. He encouraged us. I remember the words that he said. He was saying, if you want to start any project, don't dare anybody. He even gave an example that even if you want to build a bungalow, a big house, don't dare anybody. Unless you know he will encourage you. But many of them will discourage you. So it's good you start. Then maybe you will notice on the way that you are doing something. Those of you who are there in the last time we were having Jericho prayers here. The pastor who spoke to us that evening, Pastor Charles Langat, he gave us a very powerful testimony. That he started building a church where there was no worshippers. He just had faith that he will have people who are going to worship with him. So he started building the church. And we were told when he was asked, he could not say. Maybe people wanted to know what he was doing. Agi machi ko nai ko le ne.
And it's like people were already discouraging.
Aki ne kitina gele wo nga ga di ko memos
They were wondering why he was putting up a building and there are no believers.
Ani gide le batte che ko ta nga ne se no mite.
But as we are speaking now,
Na ni ngalo le uno.
the church is there and the believers are there.
Ya ni mi ga ne se to mite.
So I want to encourage you as well.
Amachi bara shere ko.
That whatever you are doing,
Ingia tu ne ye.
remember they are discouragers.
Ibwat ko le mite di ke mu ba ye ko memo le.
All you need to do
Kit ne ache yai.
is to stand by the faith that you have in God.
Ito no che ka ne ni tinge ne
Same
cho.
way this gentleman David stood.
Kerke am Daudi ne le ito
You
no.
can look at him, he was discouraged by so many people.
Yani kya ko memo le bi cha.
Even his own brother Eliab,
Abo tu che ni Elia.
it discouraged him from what he was doing,
Ki mo nga le chi mo ko testa.
not knowing what he had in his heart.
Ko man na ine ki tie mu le ndo.
I want us to see in
Let us appreciate God. Let us appreciate God in the name of Jesus.
Hello, Bwana asifiwe. Bwana asifiwe.
Wana sifiwe.
Can we have a seat?
Oge gete fwe.
I want to thank God this morning
Macho macho ba ngoi asubuhi da rai.
because He has helped us. Because He has helped us,
Ka go tole te.
and we have been here this morning.
Kimi to ga tere ko asubuhi.
It has been the will of God
Abo magere ba Jehova.
that we are here together.
Kimi te pro ba gege.
Bwana asifiwe.
Wana sifiwe.
I want us to go straight to the Word of God,
Amacha ta tan ke ga smulo ta Jehova.
and we are going to start the book of Ephesians,
Kimi ke to ni ta pu ba beso
5 and 16.
Mu tamanaglo.
Last week,
Wi yit konye.
we shared very powerfully about the challenges that we have in our life,
Agi ne ke e guru mate ta ba tu ki nyoru en sabet.
and we saw how God can help the men of God to overcome challenges.
Agi gir le to Jehova ko tinga Jehova mo ne khoi muti.
All that is required is for us to stand,
Ki ne mo ne che tu ge tu no se.
and we wait upon the Lord.
Agi ga ni Jehova.
Otherwise, as you know, this world is full of challenges,
Ai ni le mo ni le chang khoi muti.
and therefore we cannot avoid it.
Mo gi muti walwe.
But we have to go through them
Ai gi bune choto.
as we stand in the ways of God.
Ye gi tu ne wa tu me ba Jehova.
In the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 16, no, verse 15,
Mu tamana mu en ta ba beso
it says, look carefully and then how you walk, and not as unwise men, but as wise men.
Kale e tamana mu cho ri ke anyu mi sing en lo te toi e bonno ko ge. Ma go uche ma ngome na go uche ngome.
Making the most of the time because the days are heavy.
O bai si esa ise gumye amu ya che de tushe.
In verse 16,
Tamana glo
in NIV Bible,
en Bible number NIV.
it says, make good use of every opportunity.
Kale lege bai si la ta ga tu lege yo gumye.
One is a few.
Ba ma che so.
So we need to be careful about the opportunities that comes on our ways.
Yo chi ge bege ga ta ga tu ma nyo che.
One is a few.
Ba ma che sa.
There are so many things that happens in our life,
Chan uche chan ke o se sa be nyon.
but we need to be very careful.
Ba mi wa cha ra ge ke.
The Bible is telling us to be very careful
Mo ba ko ge ke.
and to be wise,
Agi ngome gitu.
so that we may be in a position
Sige mi tene nafasi.
to know when God is speaking to us.
Ke ne ge ga ta no de ngolo me cho.
We have to be sensitive to the Spirit of God.
Yo cha ra ge ko se mi sing e do mi ri.
Sometimes things comes on our way,
Tu sai ta ga che bo ne or tu ne kyo.
and God wants to speak to us through such ways.
O mara ina tu ne ki cho ma che ngolo me cho bo.
In the book of John,
E kita pun baca wana
chapter 9,
sabon.
Jesus was speaking the same words.
Kingolole ngale Jesu chekakok choto.
I want us to read in the book of John.
Kitabu nebo Yohana.
The book of John chapter 9.
Sogol.
We hear of a man who was blind,
Kikosa ko chi nagi ora.
and God and Jesus healed him.
Ang giso da Jesu inene.
Before that, Jesus was asked by his disciples.
Kikuto mono tong ite be alamala Jesu.
I want us to read in verse 1. In verse 1 of chapter 9.
We're going to try again and say Sogol.
And it says, as he passed by, he saw a man blind from his birth. And verse 2 says, and his disciple asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And Jesus answered, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be made manifest in him.
Agi isir tahu ke cita nagi ora ko buat ko kakisich. Agi te bene dalam mana ni boleh cira bingo nagi ai te ke cici ana sihiki. Segi sih ko ora ko Jesu boleh kima ko cici nagi ai te ke to ana ko sihiki. Aku suka bi ko to ko isi nega Jehovah ini nene.
Therefore we sometimes find challenges that make the works of God be manifested.
Konyol gaya isu nega nene datne kio ko ngota ko be.
I'm saying we hear that sometimes we find things or challenges that makes the works of God be manifested. You see, some people thought maybe because of the sins of the parents or of this gentleman who was blind that he was made blind. Amen. So we hear that where the works of God is manifested through our challenges. All that is required of us is to be sensitive and to notice that we are walking in the ways of God. I want us to see in the book of First Samuel chapter 17.
Samuel.
17. First Samuel 17.
Samuel
where we are going to hear a story which I know is familiar to many of us. Here we are going to read in verse 1. And we are going to see the story of David and Goliath. I want us to read from verse 1. It says, now the Philistines gathered their armies for the battle. They were gathered at Soko, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Soko and Aseka and Ebes Dami. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in line of battle against the Philistines.
Kiyum anyum Philistine luo shikwa ko baluke. Agiyum ke Soko ne Juda. Agi tej binu da Soko Aseka en Ebes Dami. Agiyum ke bi afsa ko water Saul agi tej at with Ela agotet luge ko barge of Philistine.
Now in verse 3 it says, and the Philistines stood on mountain on the one side, and Israelites stood on mountain on the other side, with a valley between them. And there came out from the camp of Philistine a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits. And a span. He had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekel of bronze. And he had grips of bronze upon his legs, and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders, and the shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam. And his spear's head weighed 600 shekel of iron, and his spear went before him.
Tinye kari ap suno ni gerge ki agin di ta suno yete pateni agi gerge ilume ta ni ni agi tit le touch usi se kitane na no bise ag le ta ngotini ni ko gise gele shek pawlo chemo kari ni sindani agi wen shi ta gi chin long et ko do ine.
In verse 8 it says, he stood and shouted to the land of Israel, "Why have you come out to grow up for them? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not a servant of Saul? Choose a man from yourself, let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servant. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be servant and serve us."
Agitonon amotweki lugo shapsale en kuti no agotweki lugo shapsale kuti no lenzi amune si umamu o tatruge mo blistinet ko o twa absul olweji ge chito ago ongo chori ago nyonjo gutko muik ke barage twa ago baran ke gu anyu ni otwa ko ago atartere ne ta bara o igwanyu otwa ku ago otech.
In verse 8 it says, and the Philistine said, "I David, the ranks of Israel this day, give me a man that we may fight together." When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistines, they were dismayed and greatly afraid.
Agi the Philistine no tamare nye lugo she Israel ra ogo no chi tas babi ke barge agi ko Saul Israel tu mane choto Philistine ko tu besa ko yui sing.
Now, from what I have read,
it
appears that it posted another challenge that we saw last week. So you see, we are full of challenges. But even so, we are also not without the discouragements. And you see, this Philistine man was a huge man. In fact, he was a giant. And he came with a lot of words. And it appears these words that he brought the people of Israel scared them. Well, as a field. And in verse 12, it says, "And David was the son of an Ephraite of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, who had 8 sons in the days of Saul. The man was already old and advanced in age."
Bethlehem Judah kai na nyingo gichezi ya gitinye weri sisi agi boyon chishoka ne meshe absol kiga gosi engwenu tabi.
I want us to maybe also for the interest of time, maybe we shall jump from that verse and we go to verse 19. And it says, now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And verse 20 says, "And David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper, and took the provision provision and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to encampment as the host was going forth to the battle line, shouting the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up for the battle army against army. And David left things in charge of the keeper of the package, and led the ranks and went and greeted his brothers.
Kimi dan Saul, Kimi Saul, agiche ko wata pi tugul chigi Israel atwe ta ella ko barage Philistine agi nget da de go misi ago ko chige shire bibi da agi tu cho ta ko ye kiga ngachesi agi to le mi da ri shege chigi yegi wo che lu ye to ko ye ko ma che ko ma da ba wa ye lu ye agi da tu ye Israel Philistine ko tur chige lu go she ko tur chinge lu go she twa ki ba ko ki da de tu ki ribina ta tu aro la ba ti mi de lu ye ko ga tu ri je tu cha.
Remember, David was a shepherd. And his father had sent to take some food to his brothers. And here he met them when he was in the middle of the battle. But you know these people had been scared. And verse 23 said, as he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of God, Korir by the name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistine and spoke the same words as before. And David heard him. So before then, David had not heard about this man. He only found these people when they were already scared. And they had nothing to do. They were so fearful because of this child. And David found these people when they were so fearful. Now he heard by himself how he spoke. At first, when Korir spoke, David was not there. And when he came, we are told Korir repeated the same words he had spoken. And now David heard the words by himself. Verse 24, it says, all the men of Israel whom they saw, the man fled from him and were much afraid. The men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up with David, Israel, and the man who kills him, the king will enrich with great riches and will give his daughter and make his father house free in Israel. I remember last week when we were sharing about the message chapter Nebo. I told you people can come and scare you. Look here, these people are also scared. There were so many Israelites here. And most of them were afraid. They had been scared in the way this giant came to them. And especially the word that was spoken by this gentleman. And even the way he was clothed with the clothes with the clothes of the army.
Ako talaga nakatake ang gulay sa balugir.
All those were so scared.
Cho tatulungi gugir kaya ako bisa.
Sometimes our eyes deceives us.
Sai taka na ngale gonya kyo.
We may come to a challenge,
Mucha gini uru window.
and in our eyes,
Ako yang gonya
it
kyo.
appears that we may not be able to go through them.
Tuto ko ruwa mag mucha giterte.
Of course, we may not do it by ourselves,
Iman much magi ako eche.
but if we depend on God,
Lagi no tie tie kaya Jehovah.
if we lay everything that we have on God,
Gini lagi agak tu lagi tinya kita.
then God is going to make us be victorious.
Kue giterte ni chef.
Verse 26, it says, David said to them, say to the men who stood by him, what shall be done with the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should take the armies of the living God?
Aki wala chi daw dibi che ito no se dia mi te ne ko lenchi ya chi ne chi tane para Philistine ne to. Awo isto tever na te Israel. Amun ngo Philistine ni magi muratan ko Korea ini ko siya ko mo to indet ne sabe.
I'm pleased in the way this David saw the Goliath.
Bye e no re de gir da daw di ne Kolia.
To many people, this Goliath was a child and he is undefeated.
E mi che chang wi ko gir di ke chang en Kolia ko gir ko lagi chi magi tertere.
But look at the words used by David.
Ai gir ngale che ko se daw di.
Wengine kama ingekuwa watu wetu wa Kalenjin angesema ng'ong'e tai kaimui gore
Pengine kama ingekuwa sisi wakati anasema nani huyu kijana?
Bwana asifiwe.
Anataka tutoaibishe.
I like the way this gentleman saw saw Goliath.
Achome elegi girta chichen Kolia.
He was a man who was fearing God,
Kichi ta misina giwe Jehovah.
and he knew he's going to defeat this gentleman.
O ingene mangolle itertere chichi.
Now in verse 28,
Tete maksisi.
so that in verse 27 it says, and the people answered him in the same way, so shall it be done to the man who kills him.
Agi walchi bichota ni nende ko undi wolle chi kiachin ko uno ta chita na bare inende.
Remember, David was with his brothers.
Iwat ko legi mite daw jaktu